Hello, everybody. We have Emmy in the house tonight.
Hi.
Okay, like I said, Emmy, I'm gonna go and hit go live on Instagram as soon as the preview starts showing up, and on your Instagram in a minute.
Sounds good.
Okay, this is very exciting. We have Emmy the Legend. I came up with a new name for you, by the way. Emmy the
The
Legend.
legend?
Never get tired of living Emunah.
I don't know.
Not that you should get tired of it. It's a good one.
Can I live up to that? That's the question.
I think so. I think you already lived up to it. I just hit go live on that Instagram, hit go live on your Instagram. This actually worked for the first time that we're live on 2 Instagrams at once. Yay, Fay. Okay. I think we're good. Let me just check our website, although there's nothing I could do if we're not live here, but just good to see.
No, I hope that it works.
Okay. Yeah, we're actually here. Very cool. Very, very bougie, like my friend would say. Okay.
Yes.
Anyways.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Yay. So much, by the way, anxiety level check-in, by the way, I feel so much less right now. No?
I'm no, it started. I'm scared.
Okay. So I'm going to now transfer the calm energy.
Namaste, as they say.
Okay, Emmy, so for real, I feel we could talk about so much. It's before Pesach. I felt I wanted to talk to you about Pesach and how you're getting through it, and not in the way of oh my God, how are you getting through it? Because I don't see you as that person, and I don't think you see yourself as that person, or anybody does, but more just what you are taking into Pesach. And I feel that could inspire others. And also, when I messaged you about this when we were chatting, you're like, oh yeah, by the way, my ex left right before Pesach, and I was like, oh cool. And then I had to re-explain myself, not cool what you did, cool, that's going to give us good food for thought and good talk, something good to talk about. So I feel it's a cool place to start. Like I said, there I go with the word cool.
So cool, the coolest. When I think of cool things, up here. Yeah, no, definitely. So yeah, Pesach is a incredibly interesting time for me. I don't even want to say powerful, even though it is. I like to say more interesting because there's so many emotions, and as much as yes, it is a powerful time for me, it's also an incredibly difficult time. So it's interesting.
It's apropos that we're sitting here now. It's literally a week before, exactly a week. Next week this time, we didn't yet start the Seder, but it's pretty close.
It's so crazy. The timing of everything just worked out so well, and that's why when you said oh, let's talk about Pesach, I'm like, yes, this is everything for me right here. This is the crux of where everything in my life, I don't want to say fell apart, but it felt like it fell apart at the time, and it was really a lot. So this really was good timing.
Yeah.
I will say that a few days, I don't know how much anyone on here knows of my story, but in super short, literally the day Pesach was on a Friday, so on Thursday, I was home with my newborn, and my ex came home and basically left and went home. I was completely blindsided. I didn't know what was going on. I went into Pesach that way, not knowing what was happening. I wasn't being responded to. It was a very traumatic time. My son was 9 weeks old at the time, so it was a very overwhelming, confusing, painful time. And I really look back on it, and honestly, I think I've blocked a lot of it out because it was so much.
Yeah.
And I really didn't even fully understand what was happening, but now looking back at it, it's really a crazy.
Yeah.
It was really crazy. It was crazy timing. It was crazy in general.
If you think about Pesach as it is, we're having this conversation because Pesach is hard for so many people in general. Mm-hmm. Newly married, had a baby, postpartum, whatever.
Yeah.
Then add to that you were postpartum, and add to that your ex left. He left out of total shock. It was not something that you saw coming. So that is it doesn't get much more layered.
No. Yeah.
What we're feeling, but I understand
Yeah. No, 100%. There's so much that goes into it. I think in general, just like you said, making Pesach or being a part of Pesach, and the plans and the stress and the where am I going and what am I doing and who am I going to and how am I going to do this and where are we going and the in-laws or the family or the this or the that, or do we have places to go? Are we making it at home? Are we cleaning the house? Like, what are we doing? And all of the stuff that goes into Pesach, which is great, but also can be very difficult. And just adding all the layers and adding all of the complex parts and then having this whole thing happen was just it was
And I love how you could look back and you're like, I blocked some of it out, because I think that's so normal. Like, people sometimes assume that trauma, like, you remember every detail, or you're totally dissociated, and I feel like you're somewhere in between of like, that was like way too many layers, and like clearly I don't remember every aspect, and I wonder what you think. It's more important than what I think, but like I said, we would touch upon the trauma piece. I have so many directions I want to go in. Like, I want to understand, like, how is Pesach, like, how are you feeling now pre-Pesach because of what happened? If you could even differentiate, like, if you could even say, like, I feel this way today because of what transpired a year or two. How many years ago was this?
3
years. Whoa.
I always know how many years it is based on how old my son is. It's how I keep track.
Wow. Yes. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. So yes, I'm curious, like, I guess, should we go there for a second? Like, how are you feeling going into this Pesach, like, in general, I guess, or in specific, however you want to take it?
So it's funny because every year on the 1 year or the 2 year or the 3 year anniversary of anniversary. I feel like anniversary
has to be a better word for this, by the way. I'm thinking to myself, like, no.
I'm like, I don't know if anniversary. Technically, it's like the year anniversary, so to speak, of when he left. The first year, I remember that day was like, I felt like I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna get through today. Like, it was like so much. And then the second year, I only realized that it was the day in the middle of the day. I'm like, wait, is it today? And I was like, whoa, what a growth moment. And then this year, I was so busy training for my marathon and
marathon, by the way. Like, I feel like I cheered you on, like, on Instagram, but yeah, in person.
Thank you. Yeah, it was amazing. But I think I was like so busy with that, and just, I don't know if it was also that and also this, maybe a mixture of everything, but I just, like, I didn't even realize it happened until yesterday. I'm like, wait, March is over. We're in April. Like, that's done, And it was so crazy for me that the day held no meaning other than the fact that it did happen 3 years ago. It was just something that happened. And I'll touch on this a little bit more later, but like, it was just a day, and it passed, and I didn't even realize
after the fact. That, I think that's like important.
And that was like so incredible. And I think going into this Pesach, I definitely feel, I don't want to say lighter, because we're not there yet.
Like 2 marathons in the last 6 weeks.
I know, I've been so busy. I think that's also a part of it for sure. Which I tend to do. Like, I love to set goals and chase them because it makes me feel like I'm doing stuff, and accomplishing, which I am. But like, it's nice to feel like you're accomplishing. So I've been so busy chasing all these goals that I didn't even realize it happened. And then I think coming now into Pesach, I don't want to say how I'm going to feel because obviously it hasn't happened yet, but I can say how I feel right now is that there's definitely nerves going into it, as there always is going into any sort of big yontif or anything like that. There's like all these feelings that go into it, but I see so much change and growth in myself. I mean, naturally it had to happen because that Pesach was so crazy, and just getting through that was so like, what is going on? And then the next year was like, I can't even think about what happened. So like, now being in a place where it's like, yeah, like, that happened and it was hard, and I'm still dealing with it and still living with it, and it's still hard, but I'm not broken from it, and it's like going into anything, but now talking about Pesach, going into Pesach and being like, I'm not broken from this, and it didn't break me, and I'm going in strong, and I'm going to make this yontif what it is for myself and for my son and with my family. And it's like, I got this, so it's a really cool thing.
I love that. And like the words that you just said, I'm not broken from this. I'm like, they're like, reverberating in my mind. And I'm just like, wow, like that's going to be a clip.
Great.
It's so powerful because I think people, and this maybe like lends itself to our conversation on trauma for a minute, maybe, but people can't imagine when they've experienced something as traumatic as something you've experienced, maybe less traumatic, maybe more traumatic, that they'll ever be able to say, I'm not broken from this. Like those words I just feel are so potent.
Yeah.
And it's also so authentic, like when you say it. And I think it's a common thread through your story. Like you share the ups, you share the downs, you don't share every up and you don't share every down because you're a healthy human being that has a sense of privacy. But
privacy online? Are you sure?
Are you sure it's a thing? But the concept being that you are clearly not broken from it, and like you somehow made yourself like on some level more whole potentially than you've been. And like I don't know if that's me putting my perspective onto you, but I just feel that way. Like when I look at you, I'm like, you're not only redefining what it is to be a single mom, I think what you're redefining is also what it is for a child of a single mom. Like I think that like I used to look at children that came from broken homes, and I'm specifically thinking of that reel that you made about the broken family. Literally that gets in my mind, you dancing with Yona. And I'm thinking to myself, like, now, like God willing, when one day my kid is in Shidduchim and he's read a kid from a divorced family, I'm gonna have that video in my mind, as I'm sure thousands, if not millions of people will also. And they'll be like, I'll take that kid, of course. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I really,
that means so much to me to hear.
genuinely believe that. Like you're redefining what it is to be not just a single mom, but also to raise a family and to raise a child in this environment in such an amazing way that it's like looked at and like, oh my God, there's like almost like you're not broken from it, but there's even more value here. There's even more beauty here. There's a certain sense of strength here that people won't get elsewhere. So
100%. I mean, first of all, thank you. I feel like there is a very strong, I don't want to use the word stigma, but there's a strong stigma around divorce. And I even see it a lot on my page when I do my anonymous question and answer. So many people are like, I'm afraid of what people will think, of how I'll view myself, of what it's going to be like. And it's a lot, and it's hard, and it's scary. And one of the most repeated things that I say is that, yeah, like I'm never going to tell someone to get divorced. It is, first of all, no one should ever tell anyone ever to get divorced. It's a personal decision, and one that each person has to make for themselves. And I wasn't even the person who made that decision, but as being someone who was married and is now divorced, I would never tell anyone to get divorced. Obviously, it's such a personal thing, and it's so hard. But it's interesting to me that people would rather have their children or have let's say have their children marry, just to stay out of the picture for a second, because I don't want to speak for anybody, but have their children marry someone who was potentially raised in a more broken home with married parents than someone who was raised in a home broken of a parent who was divorced, you know? And I remember when I got divorced, the fear of not being enough, not being able to be enough for my child in so many different ways. And even thinking with holding my newborn son of like, well, how's he gonna get married in 22 years from now? Because someone might think that, like, you know, God forbid he comes from a home of divorced parents. And it's like, I'm like, why am I thinking this? He's a baby. But
he'll be like 22 in Shidduchim. They'll be like 22 years ago, his mom got divorced, like whatever. Like she's that girl that made divorce trendy and made kids from broken homes look like the best kids, more desirable than the other kids. It's that child, that one. Grab it.
One. I mean, yeah. So I think there's definitely a stigma around getting divorced, and I do understand the thought process from some sense of like, well, like you don't know in what house they were raised because they're divorced. But on the other hand, it's like, do we ever know how anyone was raised? I mean, like, I don't want to say anything, but like, you know, like my ex was raised in a house with married parents. Tons of people are raised in houses with married parents, and they aren't taught properly you know, like I just think there's no way to ever know what you're getting into or what anyone's getting into. You just don't know. And like it's really something that in general, I think regarding shidduchim, just because we're on the topic, everyone needs to be educated and learn the proper tools and red flags in understanding yourself and what you need, and understanding other people's red flags of what's going on with them, and getting help and talking to, you know, a marriage counselor or a dating counselor or somebody who is qualified in any situation of anything that might feel uncomfortable or wrong or unusual or concerning, or just even a simple question, or even if everything feels so high and flying, it's still good to go and talk to someone and get a deeper
Especially
understanding.
then. You should never feel.
Yeah,
I was like,
exactly.
especially then.
I mean, I don't want to, you know, you never know.
Yeah, you never know. Some
but,
people
like,
live on cloud nine forever.
yeah, I mean, Katie
Yeah.
Russell, and everyone should live on cloud nine
No,
forever.
but I couldn't agree more. And I think that there is, and I think that this is something I'm passionate about with OK Clarity. And I know it's even with the work that you do, there is, I feel like there's more of a movement in the Jewish community with premarital counseling and dating advice. And that, you know, like my page, your page, like we're constantly telling people like, ask, reach out. Like there's no stigma in reaching out and getting the help. And I even know personally, like professionals on our site on OK Clarity that specifically specialize in working with people that are dating, seeing, you know, premarital counseling. And I think that that's for sure like a huge step in the right direction. I can't say it's like mainstream yet. I wish it was.
Same.
But
we're getting there. We're working on it, right? It's a push.
Exactly. Like the fact that it's even a thing, like premarital counseling is even like a thing that people understand what that means. I think it's funny, like challah classes, chassan classes, like no biggie.
Yeah. It's
therapy when you're doing it. Say it again.
It's standard.
Yeah, standardized, exactly. But this is just like only if you need it. What does that mean? You know, like,
you know, and how do you know if you need it?
Right. And
that's
what, right. Yeah.
For me, like, why would anyone think they needed a challah class or a chassan class unless you were told that you needed it?
Exactly.
I think this is the same thing.
Exactly.
Definitely a conversation for another time. But you know,
yeah, totally. This can, I have so much because like I'm thinking.
We have so much. I could be live with you for hours.
Totally. Like I got questions of like, should parents stay together? Should I get divorced? Should I stay married for my kids? Like that was a very common question that I got that I didn't respond to, but we'll save that for another live because I would love your perspective on that one.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we digressed a tiny bit, but I love that what we spoke about, so I don't care. And
we'll roll with it, right?
Exactly. We said we're throwing caution to the winds. Yeah. So we're saying you're going to Pesach. You are not broken. That is for sure. You are strong. With the healthy, normal struggles that anybody and everybody can understand. What do I want to say? I guess for a second to talk about like trauma, because we spoke about like what happened to you 3 years ago was obviously by old definitions traumatic. I'm curious just on your perspective on trauma.
So yeah, I think it's really interesting because when I think about it, obviously now I'm in a better place. But when I look back on that time and I think about myself, and it's like I look back on myself and like I can like almost see myself, even though obviously I can't see myself, but I see myself. And I see like I wasn't in like there was no growth happening at that time. It was all survival and getting up and going through the motions and getting through the day and going to sleep. And you know, we touched on this a little in our last live of just like minute by minute, second by second, hour by hour, day by day, like whatever it took to get through that time. And it was so incredibly difficult to get through every minute. Like it was like every minute felt like eternity. And it was really, really hard. And it was really a survival time for me of just functioning. But I also know that I so much, and I kept saying this repeatedly, that I just so much wanted to be, I didn't want my son to feel like anything in his life was lacking or like I wasn't enough for him, or that he wasn't getting the life that he deserved, or that he felt that his life was any different than any other child in any other situation. Like, I never wanted that from when he was 9 weeks old, and I made it a priority for myself to be present for him. It had nothing to do with me. It was all about him. And so I was using that survival, going through this trauma of like just absolute shock and devastation of like, what am I going to do now? And how in God's name am I going to do this? And just being like, okay, I'm not going to think about tomorrow or a year from now or 6 years from now. And I remember one time I was having a conversation with someone, and I was saying that I'm moving into my parents' house, and they were like, oh, like, your son's going to have his own room. I'm like, no, like we're sharing a room, and they're like, well, how's that going to work long term? And I was like, what do you mean long term? Like, there is no long term. Like, I'm getting remarried tomorrow. Like, there is no long term, but it really was just like there is no long term.
It's like you have to cope day by day, like you said, or minute by minute, hour by hour. I love
I'm
that.
not thinking about
what a tactless question, just like sidebar.
Oh, by the way. That was nothing.
I don't blame them, because like people just don't know what to say, and like I could have easily said the same stupid thing, but it's nice to be like, in retrospect, like, don't ask somebody that's going through an active trauma like what their long-term plans are. Like, help them just like stay in the moment
and
breathe.
Ever try to even saying you're gonna be fine, it's gonna get better. I did not find personally, and it might be helpful to others, but I did not find it to be helpful to me, because I didn't care about what was going to be in the future. I cared about what I was feeling right now. And what I'm feeling right now is I'm in pain and I'm hurting, and I don't care about tomorrow. I care about right now. So like, you are okay. It is okay. Not you're going to be okay. It will be okay. I am okay. I might be hurting. I might be breaking. I might be falling apart, but I am okay. So like, even just hearing those words, you're going to be okay, almost like validated for me that I wasn't okay in that moment, and like, that was not what I needed. I didn't need, you're not okay. And obviously that wasn't what anybody meant. No one means anything by it. And I think that this is where the whole struggle with people saying Emir Hashem by you comes in, of like, why are you telling me what I'm going to have in the future? Like, I don't care what I'm going to have in the future. I care what I have right now. And I personally don't mind when people say Mir Hashem by you. To me, it feels like a bracha. I just say Amen.
Yeah, me too. I'm just like, I can use all bracha. Hey,
yeah,
like,
please, Mir Hashem by me. Yes.
At a certain age, you just have to like be more picky about what bothers you. Unless you
exactly. Like, I just, when people say, I mean, look, sometimes in a moment I'm at a wedding and like my gut feels like it's being ripped out, and someone's like, Mir Hashem by you. I'm like, thank you so much. I'm like, okay, whatever. But I do understand where that feeling comes from, of like, why are you telling me what's going to be in my future? I'm not struggling with my future. I'm struggling with my today. So like, I'm getting through my today, my right now. And I think that was really what happened to me, of just minute by minute, second by second survival mode. I don't want my son to feel this. And I remember Yona was around 4 months old and I was still nursing. And he had no problem with latching in the beginning. I mean, obviously there was like, the learning curve, but like, he didn't really have any problems latching. And at around 4 months, all of a sudden he was having trouble latching on. And I remember my mom is a breastfeeding coach. And I remember saying to her, like, do you think, because we tried everything, and I was like, do you think that he is sensing my pain? And she was like, it's very possible, because they say to a lot of like new mothers that a lot of times you're so anxious and you're so tense because you want the baby to latch on so badly. So you're so super tense that the baby doesn't latch on because it's sensing your anxiety.
Yeah, it doesn't want to be like attached to that.
Exactly. Like, something's not right here. So it doesn't latch. And I know this because my mom is a breastfeeding coach. So I've heard it a million times. And like, for me, I was like, do you think that like maybe he senses my pain? And my mom was like, it's very possible. And I remember in that moment, I was like, I don't want this for him. I don't want my child to feel my pain so much so that it's affecting his ability to latch. And he was only 4 months old, you know, but I just remember those moments of like, I don't want my pain and my struggles to affect my child's life. And it fueled me into this path of self-growth and working on myself and working on being positive and making the conscious choice to be positive and be happy and dance. I remember every time I used to feel like I was breaking, I would break and then I would get up and I would put on music and I would dance with Yona. And he was like a baby. And I have a video. I wish I was in pajamas. Otherwise I would share it to the world.
Oh, no. Yeah.
I was in pajamas and my mom was walking past my room and she must have heard the music and she just came and filmed like a couple seconds of it. I guess because it was like powerful for her to see it. But like I watch it back now and like you could see the pain on my face. But I'm just standing there like wiggling, not even dancing, just like wiggling, holding Yona. And I look back at it and I'm like, that was my conscious choice. I am choosing to be happy right now. Like I felt that pain. I broke down and it was hard and it hurts and this sucks and this really sucks and it's really hard. But okay, now I'm going to dance with my child because I can. You know, and it was that conscious choice and all those little choices that kind of fueled me and pushed me onto this path of self growth and working on myself and changing my story and making my story something that I wanted it to be and taking control more, like taking control of something that was so out of control. And obviously I can't change everything. It's still, the situation is what it is and it's really hard. And that hasn't changed. You know, I think a lot of times people assume that when something happens so long ago that people are like better now, like even me, right? Like if you were to look at me from the outside, it's very easy to assume like, yeah, like she's better now, you know, like that happened and she's better now. And yeah, like I'm in a very different place, but that still happened to me. It's still happening. What happened then is still happening. It's not the trauma. I'm not in survival mode. I'm in a very different place, but it's still happening to me right now. And I'm still dealing with it and living with it and working through it. And there's no script, right? There's no guidebook on how to get through the trauma of your life, right? I wish there was like an instruction manual, but there isn't, right? This is still the path that I'm on and I'm still going down this path and figuring it out. And it's like, yeah, it's just, I totally just lost my train of thought, but
no, I loved everything that you shared. And I'm like, I had so many thoughts as you're talking. I jotted down some stuff if I could read them back because I was like not looking at my paper.
No,
I had so many thoughts. I was like, I loved everything you said. And I was like, okay, you were telling me about Yona. Basically, the word that came to my mind was like Yona was like an anchor for you. Like he was like the reason you chose this path and you went from outfit of the day to Emmy the Legends, you know? And I really think that like that's so powerful. Like, you know, maybe as like a takeaway for someone potentially, like having an anchor, you know, like having something that you are going to be living for. Not everybody like has a precious child that they, you know, like some people I'm sure in a very traumatic time they don't maybe, but something, right? There's something that really can help because it sounds like you showed up and you changed your story for Yona.
Yeah.
And that in turn changed it for you.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
I was like thinking about that. And then I'm thinking like, is it possible to heal from trauma? Like I'm curious about, like people always ask me that question and I'm thinking, hearing your story and I'm thinking to myself, like, I think that the question is misguided, like heal from trauma. Cause like you so beautifully said, like it's still going on, but it's not still going on. I think that that's not the words that you said. You're still living the reality of whatever the trauma like caused on some level.
Yeah.
But you can actively choose to rewrite your story, to re-narrate your story. And that's what you did. But technically, like you're not living in that survival mode anymore because you made active choices. Like you totally could still be like, you could have gone on to drugs and you could have been reliving that day that he left.
Mm-hmm.
And you could still be there. Do you know what I'm saying? Like for 3 years or 10 years, God forbid. And people do have that. So I feel like people just are very confused with the whole concept of trauma. And today everybody has trauma for better or for worse.
Yeah.
Like hearing somebody that's been through a real trauma, not a little T, and be like, okay, this is like kind of like your story is rewrite is sharing a guidebook. It's like I broke down and then I got up and danced, even
Right.
if it was like a little wiggle, you know.
Mhm.
But that is like it's those tiny steps that feel like, oh my god, I'm like this is doing nothing to me.
Right.
Is where like change happens. It's
Yeah.
taking a 5-minute walk when you want to just stay in bed for a year, you know, like
Yeah.
what do you think though? Like when people would ask you, like, can you heal from trauma? Like, what would be your response to that one?
Automatically, my mind says yes. I know I'm shaking my head no, but it's a yes.
Okay.
Automatically, my mind says yes. I definitely feel like I have healed from the trauma. That doesn't mean that it doesn't still hurt, which is a very important distinction, I think. And it's something that I spoke about earlier today on my Instagram of growth hurts, right? When you're holding a plank for X amount of time and your abs are burning, that's growth. When you're running and you want to stop, that's growth. When you're hurting and you keep going, that's growth. So growth can hurt. Positive can hurt, which is, almost contradictory in our minds and in ourselves of like, no, this is hurting, let's stop. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, sometimes it is. Let's just be clear here. There are times when you're supposed to listen to your body and listen to your mind and listen to your heart. If something feels off or wrong, stop doing it. But there are times that growth can hurt. So I think looking at myself as objectively as I possibly can, obviously I can't completely be objective to my own self, but looking to myself objectively, I can say that I definitely feel like I have healed from the trauma. I'm hurting from the present, but I've healed from the trauma, if that makes sense. So like,
I love that.
yeah. So like to answer
No
the,
trauma, but you're hurting from the present.
yeah. So like to answer the question that's asked, can you heal from trauma? I think 1000% yes. I think that there can be things that come along the path of healing that can cause pain. I think that you can heal and still be hurting at the same time. There's also those two
Dichotomies.
the dichotomy that you can feel. You can be happy for someone and hurting at the same time. You can be healing and hurting at the same time. You can be, a million different things, 2 things, 4 things, 10 things can be going on within you at the exact same time. There's no rule that you can only feel one thing at once, right? Unless it's pain. And then, I don't know, there's some rule, right? That if you like pinch yourself, you don't have a headache or someone told me that once. They're like, if you have a headache, just pinch yourself and then it won't hurt. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know.
I've never heard that advice, but yeah, that's a good one.
Apparently it's a thing, but I don't take my word for it.
Yeah, I will. I'd rather take Adderall.
Same. Yeah, so yeah, I definitely think that, as I said,
yes, you could. I love that. I like how you differentiated. You can heal from the trauma, but you can still be hurting in the present. And I think that that's very powerful. It's like kind of elusive, like you have to wrap your head around it. But I think that's the point. It's like, yes, you're not going to be really living that trauma if you make the right choices or you make the best choices that you can day in, day out, because eventually you're just not going to have that trauma, that it's not going to feel that traumatic.
Right.
You'll know that you experienced trauma and you healed from it, but you'll still be hurting. And there will be times that trauma is quote unquote triggered, like they say,
right.
And it will hurt. Whatever happens will hurt you more because of the trauma that you've overcome.
Right.
Then it will hurt you more than somebody that never experienced that.
Right.
But it's not you reliving your trauma necessarily. It's just pain in the present that was invoked by a previous trauma.
Exactly. And I think like, again, this isn't to belittle anybody's pain or anybody's trauma. It's actually like a lot of times someone will start saying something to me by saying, like, before they tell me what they're going through, they'll be like, but this doesn't compare to what you went through. And I'm like, whoa, like, calm down. No, like, my pain is my pain. Your pain is your pain. We both feel our pain thresholds, right, are different. The way that I'm feeling doesn't belittle the way that you're feeling. What I went through doesn't belittle what you went through. And if you're going through something that's a major trauma or a minor trauma, it might feel major to you in that moment. And that's real. Like, those are real feelings. And if you're feeling right now, like, I'm not healed from my trauma, that's normal and valid and 100% right. And I think it could be that there are people that can't heal from their trauma, and maybe there is trauma that is impossible to heal from, and maybe it's a personality thing. I don't know. I can just speak for myself, and I always say this, is that everything I say is coming solely from my own experiences and just what I've been through and where I am now. And so from where I was to where I am, I definitely feel like I have come a very long way. And I think that it is possible. And it's a lot of work and it's not easy. And it is a choice. That's another thing, is that I never wanted that life, and I just never wanted it. It was like, I don't want this. I don't want this for me. I don't want this for my son. And so I'm not going to let this define who I am and what my life will be. My life is not going to be, and although it's funny because from that came my Instagram page, which I a little bit became the poster child for single mom or divorce. And like that kind of happened. But I was also like, my life is not going to be defined by the fact that I'm a single mom, like
right. That's because but I think that that's like perfectly stated with like what I just said. It's because you redefined through your page what it means to be a single mom. And therefore you're not the single mom that you said you weren't going to be. You were not, like when you said, this is not me, this is not my identity, is because whoever you had in your mind of that single parent, you're like, no, this cannot be my reality. But you went ahead and created a new category, it's like they say in business, like the blue ocean strategy, whatever, like when you create something like new and you don't have competition essentially, because it's like something that people haven't necessarily seen in that light, in that realm. And I'm not saying that there aren't other amazing, like divorce advocates out there. I'm sure there are, but I still think that what you are for many people is something that they've never seen before. And you were not that single mom, but you are this single mom, and you created an identity that you could stand behind. And there's so much I could talk about on identity, but that will again be for another conversation.
We'll have a lot of talks,
May. We have a lot of talks, exactly. There were so many things that you just said though that I was like, 1 second, I wanted to say something on that. Yeah, like I liked how you said about the not comparing your story to someone else's, and I even like the disclaimer of like, you're not speaking for everyone's trauma, and I want to echo that sentiment, but it is a choice. And I feel like if Dr. Edith Eger, the book The Choice, if like she could call it a choice, and she can say that ultimately our life is the sum of our choices on some level, and nobody could take away what we put in our own minds, essentially, is her MO, then I think it's fair to say that, yes, we have more agency than we believe in a moment of trauma. So I think that that's powerful, and you share that as well. Yeah. And then I saw something actually that I shared the other day on my stories. It's not every day that you find a post on Instagram that actually is like resonates exactly to what you just said, which is that a person that drowns in 10 feet of water is the same dead as a person that drowns in 20 feet of water.
Yes, I saw that.
And I was like, that's exactly what you were just saying. And I think that that's so important. Like, there's no hierarchy for pain. I think Lori Gottlieb says that, or somebody says that. There's no hierarchy. So whatever you're going through, like, you don't have to minimize. And if someone's listening to this and they're still in that active state of trauma, or it's very triggered because of this time of year, coming back to Pesach, like, oh my God, like, please don't take this conversation of like, oh my God, they're through it. Trauma's healed. Like, it's only me that can't, like, I can't make these choices. Like,
you're not alone.
Oh my God, like, our hearts are with you. And that's not the purpose of this conversation. The purpose is, to help you understand another type of journey, and so that you could form your own journey, And I think that I just want to like underscore that.
1,000%, 1,000%. And you're not alone. Like,
yeah.
It's the message of my page, really, but like, you're not alone. And I feel it so deeply. And I say it all the time, and I wear it on my wrist.
Yes, I need one of those bracelets on me. I'm an influencer. Send me one.
I'll send one to you. I gotta find one.
I'm kidding. Like, so I'm like, oh, I joke that like I'm an influencer. Like, I get like Nut and Candy sends me something, and I'm like, this make me smile. Okay. And I was supposed to get one of those necklaces that like I think it got lost because they were like, we sent it to you. I don't know why aren't you posting it?
From
like,
Israel.
Yeah,
maybe it's on the path.
Route. Exactly. Anyways, coming back to Pesach, like, I guess we can talk about, and we could take this in any direction. I was thinking maybe you would share what like your biggest challenges are this time of year. Is it connected to the trauma in the past? Is it totally not? Like, I'm just curious where you stand, and people can probably resonate.
Absolutely. So I think I mean, obviously this time of year, as I said, is a lot. And there are a lot of feelings that come into it of just, you know, where I was and where I am and what happened and he left and what and how and why and where and like, you know,
you can start reliving it.
Yeah. So like all of that, you know, aside for a second, because I want to talk more about being a single mom and what that means, taking my trauma out of it. One of the things I will say that is very difficult, and that I feel a lot of times, in many different instances, but I definitely feel it coming into Pesach. I think Pesach specifically is a very intensely family oriented time, and there's a lot that goes into Pesach, and the seders, the sedarim, and everything that goes into it. I have this feeling of like I need to be enough for my child. I need to be both. I need to do both, right? Like I need to be the mother and the father in this situation. And I think that it applies to and a lot of people feel this way, not only sole custody or joint custody or whatever the custody situation is. In any situation where a parent is alone with their child in that moment, it's very much a feeling of, at least for me, I need to be both. I have to be both. And when it comes into Pesach specifically, it's a lot of learning and a lot of teaching and a lot of family. And as much as, you know, there's beauty in those moments of like, I'm with my family, there's also a lot of pain of like, where's my family? You know, I have my son and he's my family, but like, where's I call it the empty chair syndrome. I don't know if it's a real thing. I titled it that after I got divorced because I always felt like there was this empty chair next to me. And my family started going away for Pesach the year that I got divorced. Kind of just as a way to separate from the situation because it was very hard to be in that, like just the thought of being at the Seder in the same dining room in that same moment. Like the first year, I just couldn't. I was like, I can't do this. We need to go away. I don't care where we go. I don't care what we do. We can go down the block. Like, I just don't want to be in this. I need to remove myself from the situation. And so my parents found some like Airbnb in Florida. And then once we went there that was it. You know, my parents
were sold.
Yeah, we're like, we're never coming back. So, you know, but being able to remove myself from the situation was extremely helpful in some ways, but it was also, there's still the difficulties of sitting at the Seder table and looking around and being like, I have my empty chair, even though there's no empty chair.
Right.
There's no real chair. It's a fake
metaphorical.
Yeah, like who's pouring my cup of grape juice? Right? Who's like, you know, who's the Haggadah? Where's the shared Haggadah? Where's the, you know, where's those feelings, those moments that you picture in your mind of like, this is what's going to happen for me and this is how it's going to be and this is what I had or this is what I want or this is, you know, and it's like, where is that? And then it's like, oh, my son's going to sing Manashtana. Who, how, where, why, what, you know, and all the things. And he's a toddler still, but I just, you know, you have these pictures in your mind and it's like, this is what I want, but this is not what I have. And just looking around and being like, you know, my brother and Baruch Hashem, his wife and their baby and now their second baby, Baruch Hashem, and like looking at them and seeing what they have and being like, wait, hold on, something's not right here.
Yeah.
You know, like that's, where's mine?
Yeah.
I had one. What happened? You know, where's mine? And that emptiness and the loneliness surrounded by love. There's nothing but love in that moment. It's my family. And I'm so beyond blessed to be able to be in that space. Like I was in a music video for this organization, and part of it was making Shabbos and making Shabbos by yourself, and a single parent making Shabbos by themselves. And that was like the overall theme of the video was like the alone. And I remember I was filming that video and I was like, I'm so lucky that I have never once had to stand by a table by myself and make Kiddush.
Right.
It never happened, not even one time. And that is a huge bracha. And like, my heart goes out to, and I literally get emotional just thinking about it, because my heart goes out to people who do stand alone, men and women who stand alone by a table and make kiddush, single, divorced, whatever it is that you are. Like, the loneliness that you feel is debilitating at times.
Mm-hmm.
But being surrounded by people, you can still feel that loneliness. And I think that's a really important point, is that surrounded by love, surrounded by beauty. And Pesach is like, it's Pesach, there's so much, as we said, but like that feeling of like, I can't be both. As much as I want to be both, I can't be both. And it doesn't matter if I'm the mother or the father. It doesn't matter who I am. I can't be both. And having a son specifically, and being a woman, it's like, I have my brothers, thank God, and my father, and they're incredible, like really incredible, but he doesn't have both parents present, and that is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And it's definitely one of the hardest parts of Pesach, just the picture, it's just about the picture beyond just the Seder, Chol Hamoed, right? The Chol Hamoed trips, seeing, going to a park, going to the zoo, and seeing, the couples pushing their baby carriage. And this happens to me a lot. It's not even Pesach specific. I'll go to the park with Yona and I'll see a couple taking the kids to the park, and it hurts. It, like, my heart hurts. And it's a random day. They're not doing anything. They're going about their life as normal. And I'm sitting there looking at them, and I'm like, what? Where's mine? Right? Like, when did this happen? How did this happen? Why did this happen? What is this? And it on Pesach, when it's like a yontif, it's a holiday, and it's this powerful, precious, beautiful time, feelings are amplified.
Yes.
In general, I think it's just like a natural thing that these feelings are amplified. And that's why I say a lot of times on every yontif or holiday, I'm like, it's just a day. It's just another day. Exactly. It might be named something, but it's just another day. And I have to remind myself of that a lot, of like, okay, so we're walking through a zoo, but today is just another day. Nothing in my life has changed. Nothing in my life is different. Like, it's just another day, and I will get through today because it's just another day. And just like I got through yesterday, and just like I'm going to get through tomorrow, and just like I'm going to get through everything, it's just another day. So like those are, I think, the things for me personally that are definitely pain points, I want to say, of like, this is hard. Like, this is really, really hard.
Yes.
Really hard.
I think you really explained that well. Like, as I'm feeling your pain. I'm like listening and like feeling it. And I'm like thinking, like, some of it resonates. Like, what I can feel it, like, in the sense of like, yeah, like I know what it feels like to feel like the odd one out, And then I'm thinking to myself, so obviously, like, I'm single, and I'm thinking how, like, Yona, because you have Yona, like, it's a massive blessing, obviously, for more reasons that we could spend the next 3 years talking about. But I'm also thinking how the fact that you have him also makes it harder, because it's like, and that's exactly what you just shared, but like on just a very micro level of like, like, I don't have to go to the park, and see couples pushing their kids,
Right.
Unless I'm a really good aunt, which I'm not. Otherwise, I don't have to go on the halfway trip. You know what I'm saying? Unless I want to, it's like a choice.
Right.
And I think that that's just like an important point to realize, like, yes, he's your greatest blessing. Yes, he's an anchor, but because you have this intense pressure of like showing up for him, and then the showing up creates a lot of the pain, besides from the pressure, just the actual having to show up.
Yeah, 1,000%. It's very much a blessing.
I was going to say that, but I was like, I didn't want to say it. I literally had those things going through my mind. I'm like, I'm not saying that.
I'm going to say it's a blessing and a struggle, because
it's a blessing.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a struggle, and I would not change it for the world. Like, there is nothing that anyone could ever say or offer that would make me go back and change 1 second of what happened, because it was worth it, right? But it is also incredibly painful at times to be in my situation. And I think it kind of ties into a lot of areas of this feeling of like, where do I fit? Because I don't fit with my married friends, right? Not that I'm not friends with them and we don't have great friendships, guys. We're good. But like,
We have long on Instagram.
like I know they're watching.
I
I
do.
love you all. But like, I don't fit in
I
with.
thought we're friends, Emmy. Come on,
But-
like single. It's the same.
100%. But I don't fit. We're not in the same life journey, right? As my married friends. So like, they'll go out together as couples. And even if I'm invited, it's the thought of like, well, do I want to be with a bunch of couples and me? You know, like there's so much that goes into doing that and the feelings that come from it. And who's sitting next to me? You know, who's sitting next to me at the Shabbos meal, at the table? Like, what, I'm gonna go with my friends and we're gonna have a Shabbos and like they're so great, but like who's sitting next to me? You know, we're sitting on the couch. Who's sitting that? Like, Yona's sleeping, so what am I doing? You know. And then there's my single friends who don't necessarily, I don't want to say understand, but they don't necessarily understand, right? Nobody can understand really what anybody else, unless you're in that exact situation. And even then, it's kind of hard, you know. Don't necessarily even think to include me in certain things because it's just assumed that I'm in a different life situation. So I'm not in the single group. I'm not in the married group. A lot of divorced women are older, especially with children. So I don't necessarily fit or resonate with them. It's kind of like a where am I kind of situation. So there's a lot that goes into being a single parent, especially at my age. I was 23 when I got divorced. I had a newborn. It was like, who's divorced with a newborn? Like nobody. You know, that was how I felt, at least. Now I know, because people come to me and they're like, I'm divorced with a newborn. What do I do? And I'm like, you just do. You just do. And you're okay. But like, you know, there's a lot of feelings of like, where do I fit and what am I doing and how am I doing this? And the grass is always greener on the other side, right? Like as I said, would never change my situation, but sometimes it's nice to think about, you know, the people that I know that have gotten divorced without children and how they kind of just slide back into their old life. Not to say they don't have trauma or struggles being divorced. There are a lot of them, but having a child plays its own role in friendships, in shidduchim, in everyday life, and getting a job, you know, like trying to find a job. And thank God I'm so blessed that I found a job with a great boss who understands my situation. But even so, it still presents challenges, Chol Hamoed, and I can't work Fridays, and I can't work Sundays, and I can't work past 2:30 because my son goes to school. He finishes at 2:30 and he starts at 9:30. So I drop him off, drive straight, hope I don't hit any lights so that I make it to work on time, and then do the same thing to get back by 2:45 to pick him up. It's like a whole, every day, every minute is like, okay, like, what now? You know? And like, I live with my parents and my family, and I'm very blessed to live with them, but I'm still the mother of my child, and I take that very seriously, you know? And I think a lot of times people ask my mom, and she said this to me, like, people feel like, oh, like, do you feel like you have another child? Like you just had another baby? And she's like, she says, no, like, I don't feel that way because I'm the mother of my child. She's like, I definitely feel like the grandmother. Obviously, you shouldn't expect to have another little kid in the house with toys everywhere, but there is a clear distinction, and one that I have worked very hard to make, and my family also, I'm sure, has worked very hard to make, that he is my child and my responsibility. And anytime I ever ask anybody to watch him, it is very clear that it's a favor and not something that they necessarily have to do, you know? And that's hard. There's a lot of pressure that comes from that on myself, asking for help and asking anyone to do anything for you. And it's not a them thing, it's a me thing. Like, I feel that pressure. And some of it's negative, of just having, you know, high expectations of myself and who I am and what I want. But also some of it's just situational, of like, I can't do this without help. You know, I got to go to the gym because I need to go to the gym, because I need to go to the gym. But the only way I'm going to go to the gym is if I have someone watch Yona, because I work. So how am I going to make this work? I got to ask my mom if she'll watch Yona to go to the gym. Right. So like,
if your mom is watching this, like, hi from me. We're Instagram friends-ish, and I love her, and we like secretly just say how awesome you are.
she's great. She's amazing. I'm so blessed. But like for real, like there are just so many things.
There's just so many things, like things.
Yeah, so many things, period. And so many things that go into being a single parent and having to do these things.
Yes.
There's the Haggadah that they're making in school, and they sent home a text. Please send a picture of, Tati at the table with the son, right? Like have a picture.
They did that. That's
the child, right? Yeah. So cute. Love it. Adorable. What do I do? Do I send a picture of myself? Do I send a picture of my father? Do I send a picture? Like, who am I sending a picture of? What am I doing? Am I sending a picture of an empty chair? Like, what am I doing?
Empty chair syndrome. Like,
literally, I have plenty of empty chairs. So
I feel like that's so tactless. Again, like sidebar for anyone watching this.
But it's not because it is, but it's not because this is reality, right? Most children are not in this situation.
Right, but why do you need a picture with, like, I don't know, my nephew, I have to find out if my nephew's got that request. Like,
I don't know. I don't have, honestly, like, I hear what you're saying. I don't feel that way. Like, I totally understand that this is the norm.
Right. You can't avoid it forever, but sometimes I just feel like it's like really,
and I know that it's going to keep happening.
Right.
And family trees and all these things where it's like, the two parents together getting married in the family tree, and then it branches down to all the siblings. And what is Yona's family tree going to look like? Who knows? So there's these things that not having a child definitely would avoid. Also just, having communication with your ex-husband is a very difficult thing. It's like,
not cool.
Someone who caused so much pain.
Right.
But putting my feelings aside for my child is everything. Like, and from day one, I have, like, and it's something that I can actually say, like, I am proud of myself for doing that, because it is an active work that I do because my priority is my child. And I think a lot of single parents also go through this feeling of putting my feelings aside. And especially there are most marriages, I would say, come to a halt. And a lot of fighting comes before that. So there's a lot of feelings in most divorces. 99% of divorces, I want to say 100, but 99% of divorces have a lot of feelings leading up to the divorce, or in the divorce in my case. And talking to your ex and having to put on a smiling face for the sake of your child, because my child is my priority, and I don't want him to feel like his life is any different than any other child's life. That's important to me. So I put that aside, and it's another step of growth, of doing something that's hard and sucks and literally like burns. It burns my core every time, but it is what it is. And I do it because this is what I have to do.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like,
I wanted to say, like, on that thing, you're saying, like, very strongly how you put Yona first. You're constantly, like, he's your priority. But also I'm hearing, and I just want to, like, underscore this point slightly, like, you're also your priority. And I think that even though you do it under the guise or disguise of being there for Yona, it's also because you know that you need to be there for you. And I think that that's, like, a really important message for any time of year, but especially going into a high holiday like this, like, in the sense of, like, you have to show up for your family, whatever the dynamic is, especially if you're a single parent and you're kind of feeling the pressure of having two roles, but you have to show up for yourself. Like, you have to. And, like, I love how you said, like, the gym is priority. The gym is an emergency.
It is.
Like, you might say it's for Yona. I don't care who you say it's for. But, like,
no. I can't even pretend.
But it's also for you. And, like, I think that it's important to be able to, like, own it and be like, yes, these are the things I need to show up at my baseline. These are the things I need to show up at my medium line. And these are the things I need to show up at my highest, performance level. And maybe not every day do you get to do all those things to get you to the highest, but the baseline has to happen. The medium has to happen. And hopefully more, more frequently, you could have everything happen, all the self-care and all the tools and things that you use to help you reach that, to have everything that you need to reach that highest level of like functioning, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, no, I mean, healing from trauma, in order to heal from trauma, right, on that subject of healing from trauma, the only way, in my opinion, to heal from trauma is to put yourself first. Not first in front of others, but just first in your own mind and in your own heart. Like, you don't have to put yourself in front of other people. You have to make yourself first in your own. You have to be a priority for yourself. Because until you're a priority for yourself, you're not actively working on it. The thing that's the forefront of your mind, that's what you're working on. So if you put yourself first and you make yourself a priority and you do the things that you have to do, whether they hurt or they feel good or both, you got to do those things if you want to heal. You got to do those things if you want to grow. And growth is hard and growth is painful, and change is hard and change is painful, and trauma is hard and trauma is painful. And so many things are hard and painful, but there's also so many beautiful, powerful things that happen from those things. And so many times that you're going to look at yourself and be like, I did that, you know? Yeah. And those things happen from putting yourself first and doing things for you. And for me, one of the main things is just going to the gym.
I know that. If you watch Emmy stories, you know that the gym is, and your Starbucks. You're shaking.
Starbucks, yep.
You're shaking. Brown sugar iced latte. I made
literally that. Right? The brown sugar shake and espresso. The number one. Okay. Second to, the trauma questions is, what is your Starbucks order?
Drink, yeah.
You heard it here, folks.
Exactly. For the 10th time or 100th time. So we're at the hour mark, but I still wanted to ask you if you have a few more minutes. So what would you say, like, we spoke about so much and you definitely put in some points of like what could be things that people could take into Pesach, but I want people to feel like I got some nuggets here that I could actually, like, I'm going to be Emmy this Pesach. I'm going to do what she would do. So what are you doing to, like, or what will you do? What is your, like, go-to, if you have any, like the gym maybe, or working out or running, I don't know, but you say what you're going to be like, this is what I'm going to do when the pain hits, or this is what I'm going to do when I'm at the Seder and I'm feeling that awful identity crisis, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that for everybody, it's different. I will say, you can try these things and they might not work. So if you want to live Pesach like Emmy, you might have to be Emmy. But
hashtag live Pesach like Emmy. I'm liking it.
To try.
To aspire.
No, please. Okay. How to make yourself feel better. How to make yourself feel better. How to make yourself feel better in moments of pain. At least in my opinion. Number one, and most important, if you take anything out of anything I ever say, it's do not push your feelings aside. Your feelings are so valid and so real and so important, whether or not they may seem insignificant or unnoticeable to somebody else. They are so real and so important. And I think when I try to push my feelings aside, that's when they come back to bite me later on something that's so insignificant and wouldn't normally affect me. Mm-hmm. Feel your feelings. If you're sitting in a moment and it hurts, and you're sitting at the Seder table and you're like, this hurts, don't invalidate yourself. Yes, this hurts. This is hard. This sucks for whatever reason, for whatever you're going through, in whatever you're going through right now. This sucks and it hurts and it's hard and I want to cry and I just want to rip my hair out and I don't want to be here right now. Like, that's okay and that's normal. Let yourself feel it. And then step away from those feelings. And that's a hard thing to do. And it's something that is something you need to practice and work on. It doesn't happen overnight and it's not always doable. But something that I try very hard to do is to step away from the feelings. I almost like put it in a box in my mind. I make a mental box. I literally will picture a box and be like, okay, like this is pain or this is anxiety, right? This is hurts. This is burning. I don't like this feeling. It's hard. I felt it. It sucks. I don't want to feel this way. I'm going to take it, stick it in the box, close the box, lock the box, and put it aside. It'll come back. It can come back. That's okay. I'm not getting rid of it. I can't get rid of pain. I wish I could, but I can't. So for now, I'm just going to put it aside. That really, really helps me. And it might come back, and it could be 5 minutes, it could be 10 minutes, it could be an hour, it could be days. It might come back. Do it again. Feel the feeling, put it aside. Feel the feeling, put it aside. Work actively on feeling better. Smile. They say a lot of times when you're running, and I got some of my marathon pictures back, and I look at some of the pictures, and I am miserable, but I have a huge smile on my face because they say that when you smile, your body thinks you're happy.
Ooh,
It's like
yeah.
a natural thing. When you smile, your body thinks you're happy. And a lot of times people say to me in my running videos, I'll be like, 8 miles, right? And people are like, oh, you're always smiling. And it's like, I'm trying to convince myself that it feels good. It doesn't feel good. I smile to make myself happy, right? So smile. Can lift chin up, right? Like pick your crown up, put it back on your head, like smile. It's okay. You're okay. You're in a moment and it might hurt, but you're okay. That is like, I think, number one, the most important thing.
It's containment, like what you said is like perfect containment, which I always like preach because I'm a big believer in that too. And it's hard to do. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I sometimes fail at it, but when you're able to do it, it's hard to know when to draw the line. Like, how long could I feel my feelings for, and how much could I like complain about them and cry and make everybody pity me? And then I pick myself up and I'm happy, and then everybody else is like still moping because I made them so sad.
It's like, I'm so miserable. I'm just like, oh, it's so hard for you. And then I'm like, no, I'm fine. Everyone's like,
yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's like it's a skill worth working toward. It's building a muscle, to use the muscle analogy. It really is. And I like that you like coupled it with visualization, because I think that's so powerful. Because it's like, what do you mean put it aside? Where do I put it? Well, will I go back to it? How is that not dismissive? And it's not, because you could always go back to it in therapy. You could always go back to it in journaling. You could always go back to it the next moment when you're triggered and you start feeling it again. You're not burying it. You're actually just like containing it. That's all you're doing. You're organizing your emotional space.
Exactly. And I think it's almost like a Jack in the Box in a sense, where it's like you're winding it up, right? And then it pops out. Something triggered it. Hooray! Here comes the clown. My life is still my life. And then, the clown comes and waves around a bit, and then, okay, go back in the box. You'll be back out later. It's like the Jack in the Box. But it works. It really works, and it's hard. It's not easy. And it's not perfect, right? And sometimes you'll try to shove it in there, and it won't go in. And that's okay.
That's okay. I think that's a sign that you need to feel the feelings more.
Yeah.
Like, you don't really let yourself feel that. You're like
still trying to come out. It means it's not ready to go in.
Exactly. You have to let it come out, and then you have to, like, when it's ready. And if it's not going in, it's because it's not ready. And then you got to just still feel them. You got to still let them bleed, Yeah.
And it's okay to remove yourself from the situation. That was my next point, is that sometimes just removing yourself from the situation really helps. There are times I'll go to the bathroom and just sit there for a minute and just breathe. Just cry or breathe or wash my face if there's no makeup on, or wash my hands if I can't wash my face. By the way, washing your hands really helps. I mean, I don't know if it helps everybody, but there's something about cleaning something that's very refreshing, and it really helps me. Like, if a lot of times I'll feel overly anxious or sad, or I feel like I need to feel better, if I'm in the bathroom, or I'll go to the bathroom and sit there for a minute, and then I'll wash my hands. And it really, like, it's like washing your face. I think it's like your body's naturally like, oh, okay, I'm clean now,
Cool. I never heard that. I like that.
I don't know if it's like a scientific thing or if it's a me thing, but like, if it works for you, then great. It works for me. So, like,
as long as it doesn't become OCD.
No. Don't do it all the time. But
exactly.
If you ever feel like you need to remove yourself from a situation,
right. You have your phone because it's Yontif.
Right.
And you can't wash your face because you still have some mascara on.
Yeah, exactly.
The tears didn't wipe away at, or exactly.
And
you can wash your hands. Yeah.
Like, I think it's just, I don't even know if it's necessarily like washing your hands thing. I mean, to me, it just, I feel cleaner, but I think it's also just like doing something that's different from what you were just doing.
Correct.
Sometimes just walking away from the table isn't going to do it, so that's why, you take a walk, you go upstairs, you do 15 jumping jacks, right? Get your adrenaline pumping, hold a plank for 30 seconds, wash your hands, like, do something that's different than what you were just doing. because sometimes just walking away, your feelings, nothing's changing. Just being away from the table, it's just like, oh, I'm still thinking about this. Change it, change the channel. I used to, when I was younger and I would have a nightmare, my father always used to tell me, change the channel. You're like, just change the mental channel. And I think about it all the time. Like when something's really hard, it's funny because I don't really have so many nightmares anymore, but like when something's hard, I'm like, okay, like change the channel. And it's just funny that like it stuck with me my entire life of like change the mental channel, right? Either hold the remote, stick in the box, do what you got to do, change the channel, you know?
Yes.
So yeah, I will say those are like my two. And then obviously all the self-care things, work out, take a walk, wash your face, read a book, take a hot shower, all the things, anything that makes you feel more human or good in that moment that you can do. Obviously, Yantif is hard because you can't work out or take a shower, but you know.
Exactly.
Well, take a shower and Yantif. Take a shower.
Take a
Even
shower.
a cold shower. By the way, cold plunges are a thing. So
We're in style. Take a cold plunge.
They're very trendy. I've never done one, but I've heard good things.
No, same. I'm like, that's one trend I'm not jumping on. It's just not gonna happen.
I really want to do it, but only because I heard it's like it makes your muscles feel better. And right now,
your muscles are killer from all the running.
All the running.
Wow. I can imagine that. Oh my God. Wow. I loved everything you shared. Yes, I can like echo every sentiment in the sense of like do the thing. And I would just like add that do the thing that you don't want to do. Meaning like when you're feeling really yucky, I always say this, like the last thing you want to do is do the thing that you know is good for you. Like, cause it just doesn't feel like that's going to help and it might not help. Yeah. The point is not necessarily it helping when you feel better in that moment or 5 minutes later. The point is that eventually you're going to feel better. It's like, it's hard because it's like we want instant gratification. So like everything you said, like, yes, but washing your hands might not make you feel better, but you still broke a pattern there. Like you actually did something to try.
Right.
Taking a 5-minute walk or even doing a workout. Like there are certain things that have a greater chance of making you feel better, but not necessarily will anything or everything make you feel better. But you have to really pat yourself on the back for even the trying of it. And if you keep doing that, what you're doing is you're building that mental muscle, which is ultimately what's going to get you through it and make you more resilient. That you can say, I am not broken.
Yep, exactly. Consistency is not only the key, not like it's the key, the door, the whole house, it's everything. Like consistency is key, right? It's everything. And just building healthy patterns and healthy habits. It doesn't always work. Washing your hands, it might not work. Taking a shower might not work. Going to the gym, there are times that I'll go to the gym and I'll leave and I'll have that high and then I'll come down and I'll be like, you know, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. Like sometimes life is just hard.
Yeah.
It's just hard. And that is okay because it's life. And life is hard. And I think that's really important. It's a really important thing to acknowledge within yourself because everyone's life looks so great online.
Yeah.
Well, even people whose lives are hard. Like someone commented on my Instagram post today and was like, I don't even think they followed me, but they were like, I don't think you've ever gone through anything hard in your whole life. I'm like, you must be new here. Hi. Like clearly you don't know. But my point is, looking at someone or looking at their life, like especially online, it's such a highlight reel of
true.
What's going on. And even not online, like even in person, like you see someone on the street and they look so happy or so put together. That doesn't mean they're not getting in their car and bawling their eyes out. That doesn't mean that they're not getting home and fighting with their spouse. That doesn't mean, you know what I mean? Like life is hard and that's just life. And I think that's important. It's important to know.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more. All right, Ems, we are at the hour and almost 15-minute mark. Is there anything else you want to say or should we wrap?
Anything
you didn't get to share?
Sure. I think it's important. There was one thing that I was thinking about. I think it was like in the list of things that we were saying we were going to talk about, and I just wanted to talk about it was support. We were talking about support. You mentioned like supporting people who are
going through. Yeah, I actually skipped that question.
And it's really important because it's a question that I get asked a lot from family members or friends or people who are connected to somebody who's going through a divorce. And the number one thing that I can say, if you are trying to be there for someone who is struggling, the best way is to just be there for them. There's no other way to put it. Like, I didn't need, when I was, when I was going through my hardest time, and even now, but when I was really, really struggling, I didn't need you to bring me a 5-course meal. I didn't need balloons. You got this, balloons. I just needed you to be there. A text. Hey, how are you? Want to get coffee? Can I come over? Invite me out for a meal. Keep them on your mind. Like, try your best when even at times that you might not think they're struggling, or they might be surrounded by family, they might be surrounded by friends. How you doing? Are you okay? Can I help you with anything? Like, just little reminders that you're there, that you're thinking of them on a random Tuesday. Like, I have alarms in my phone because I'm terrible with texting. Like, anyone who has ever texted me pretty much knows that I am so bad at responding, because I really try, when someone texts me, to give them all of me to respond. And a lot of times that leads to me not answering and saving it for later, and then I just forget. So I have alarms in my phone for certain people. Text blank, because otherwise I forget. And I know that that person wants me to text them. So I will literally have a reminder on my phone. And I think that it's so important, if you have someone in your life who is going through anything, infertility or divorce or any sort of struggle or pain, you don't have to bring it up and be like, how are you doing about your divorce? How is going through Pesach as a single parent? Right? Just, hey, how are you? Do you want to hang out? Do you need a place to go? Do you have a Shabbos meal? Do you have a Seder? Do you, you're going to this event, right? We all have this event. All of us are going to this event. Do you want me to be your buddy? Right? Just little things of, you are important to me and I care about you and you are my friend and you are a priority in my life, or you are my sister or my brother or my cousin, my aunt, my uncle, whatever it is that you are to someone in their life. Show them you care just by being there. Like, I think the overtures are very nice and they're great. And I remember, like, when I was first getting divorced, I had this friend who would come over and drop off coffee randomly, because she knew coffee is my love language, right? She knew. And it meant so much to me. But it didn't diminish the other just little texts and little things, or the want for just, I don't want to talk about my divorce. I just want to be normal. I just want, hey, how are you? Or you want to come for Shabbos? And even if I said no, I was not ready to leave my house, the thought, just the asking, and just because someone says no doesn't mean they didn't appreciate you asking, and it doesn't mean you shouldn't ask again in a month. And even if they say no, one of my cousins, if she's watching this, LOL, she does not stop. She has texted me, I cannot even count how many times, especially in the beginning, that she invited me to come to her house. And I every time was like, no, I'm not leaving. I don't want to leave my space. I was like, I did not, especially in the beginning, I did not want to leave my space. Now I go everywhere. But like, at the time, I really did not want to leave my space. And I just was like, no. And she just kept asking and asking. And it was never like it's an open invitation, which is very nice. And if you tell someone it's an open invitation, that's very nice. But they still feel, at least I do, and I think a lot of people would still
they're not going to use it.
Like, I'm not going to text you and be like, remember that time 6 months ago when you told me it was an open invitation? Can I still, like, it's not my, and I'm sure there are some people that are like that, like we have people who have open invitations and they'll just show up. I'm not that person. I think a lot of people are not like that. So telling someone that, you can tell someone they have an open invitation, but follow up on your open invitation, because they might be thinking about it and they don't want to ask, So I think it's really important, just like consistency, be there, show up, and just like show that you care in any way possible. Like,
it doesn't have to be something big. Like, people get overwhelmed and they feel like, what should I do? What do I get them? What do I say? Like, the truth
is a huge one.
What do I say? I'm thinking about you.
I don't know what to say to you right now.
Right. Or I'm thinking about you and I miss you and I would love to chat. Are you available at 9:30? Like,
literally. And it makes such a difference. And I think there are times that people have straight up said to me, I don't know what to say. And I'm like, I don't either know what to say. Like, no one knows what to say, right? Like we said, there's no guidebook, there's no instruction manual. how to be a present friend or how to get through your life situation. Nobody knows what they're doing.
Right.
So if you tell someone, I honestly like, I just want to be there for you, right? Like that means a lot. And then actually be there though. Like that, the follow-up, the consistency. And that doesn't mean you have to text them every Tuesday at 3 p.m., right? But like just to show that you're thinking of them in times that other people might not be.
Yes.
That's like the random, 8 o'clock on a Wednesday, like there's just random times, and pre-yontif, those things. But a lot of times, like I feel like especially now, there's like everyone sends these broadcasts like every Shabbos and whatever. Like they're nice, but like that everyone in their contact list is getting it. So unless it's like specific, people think
I want to like a ban on that. By the way, it's like a pet peeve of mine. I'm like, please, like,
don't broadcast me.
Especially when people don't respond to your messages, like when you message them about something and then they send you a broadcast that they just launched, whatever. And I'm just like, for real? Like, how are you not embarrassed at that?
I honestly like it's just the good Shabbos the Shabbos texts.
Yeah.
From like someone I haven't spoken to in 12 years, but every week she sends me good Shabbos. And it's nice. I appreciate it.
But it's not personal.
And you even know, like, are you even in the loop? Like, do you even know am I even saved in your contacts? Like, whatever. It's just, sometimes I feel like people might think that it's not directed towards them. And so if you want them to think that it's directed towards them, make it direct.
Make it personal. Exactly. I love that, Emily. Wow. We can go on for hours and hours, but I would totally have to like pause to change into PJs and like
it's like what time is it? 8:50. Okay, it was not past my bedtime yet, but I know that it's almost getting close to yours.
Getting close to my bedtime. Yeah, you can tell my eyes are like closing, but I'm like, for Emmy, just everyone should know. For Emmy, not only did I do a live at 7:30, I mean, Emmy was flexible. I just wanted it to be at a time that I knew her followers and our followers would be most likely to be present. But not only did I do a live at 7:30, which is like close to it's not my bedtime. It's like a big fat joke. I go to bed at like 11-ish, but it's like my like at 7, 8 o'clock, I'm already like phone away. Everyone, the world is like shut down. It's like me and my, like, but not only that, but I put on mascara and I got dressed. I changed into whatever I was wearing, which was like my exercise.
On your walk, you went on a walk.
And I was walking 10 minutes before.
Not that you weren't presentable on your walk, but
yes, but
for me.
Exactly. All right, Emmy, you are amazing. You are a legend, and we will definitely do this again. We don't have time now, I feel like, to look at people's questions, comments, but if people have them, please share them. And of course, we will read them and hopefully address them in another live. If they're Pesach specific, then I'm sure Emmy would try to address them maybe on some level before, and I would do the same. Absolutely. So definitely to be continued. But Emmy, thank you for showing up. So vulnerable, so honest, so grounded. I really think that you are like a light onto the nation, honestly. So I want to just say that from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you for having me and just doing this. It's been so great. Your platform is amazing. And I personally hear so much. And it's just funny because people will be like, your friend from OK Clarity? And it's like, yeah, my friend.
Exactly.
I know her.
We know each other.
We're friends. But for real, like,
thank you.
Incredible. And
thank you. But it's like talking to people like you that helps us really like reach the people that need us most. And thank God we're at a place where, we are reaching people. But like I said, it's really thanks to people like you. So can't do it without
everyone who
joined this live. I think we had a nice showing, at least for part of it. I don't know if people stayed for their entire dinner and then some, but we'll
that's what happens when we literally have a movie length. Exactly. But
now we just need to get a producer.
For real. Thank you everyone for being here and being present. It means a lot to me to have even one person staying and being present is so. It just means we can't do this if we don't have people to watch. It would be nothing. So it's for Klal. So,
alrighty, thanks. Okay.
Laila Tov.
Laila Tov. Take care.